Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports podcast. I'm Raffi, as always, joined by Davian. Davian, we're on a new setup for our recording.
We
Hopefully,
are.
everything works out. Hopefully, it looks nice. So we'll see what happens. We're off Skype, so we'll see. But anyways, how are you? Obviously, there's a lot of things that are changing in the NFL world that we'll get into momentarily. But how are things?
I've been good. Look, this past Monday was a great day. I said Michigan was going to win. And I said if they win, they will win because of their run game. And what happens? They won. Why'd they win? Because of their run game. So look, I'm incredibly happy, that Michigan won because it proves that I'm now officially can be considered at least semi you can at least trust me in what I say about college football, like half the time now. Okay,
Yes, of
so
course. And
yeah,
Oregon, you were almost halfway with Oregon.
yeah,
Essentially, almost
exactly. I
there
was like, I
practically.
was there. I was almost there. Okay, like watch next year. It's gonna be a different story. They're gonna do great. They're gonna
Win
do great
both.
things. Yeah. We'll talk about college football, but with all the transfers in the quarterback area arena happening, it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these teams and whether it'll translate. Interesting to see that a lot of players that you would think that would go into the NFL draft aren't going to the NFL draft, including I forgot his name. He's Ohio State's number two wide receiver. Very good player, but
Emmanuel Buka.
yep, him. But he decides to stay with a QB who we'll see if he's he was good, but he wasn't amazing. So we'll see what happens there. But either way, Rafi, how have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Obviously, am. I hate Notre Dame. I also don't like Michigan. But then again, as we both had on our podcast, and as we have on the YouTube realm, so you can just check out the last podcast. I also predicted Michigan just because I had a feeling because I initially had Washington. Again, I also was right saying that was going to be a low scoring game. It would favor Michigan, and lo and behold, it was a pretty low scoring game. And I remember a couple years ago, it was Georgia versus I think it was Alabama 2 years ago in the national championship game. And a lot of people in the first half were complaining about how boring it was and how there wasn't anything going on because it was like 10-3 going into the half. It was
Yeah,
very low scoring. And to me personally, I was like, okay, you guys don't really understand what's going on because this is two great defenses going up against one each other, and they're
yeah.
just playing. Both teams are making great plays on the defensive side and limiting both teams' offense. And then obviously it opened up more in the second half offensively. I didn't feel like that was really the case in with the Michigan Washington game. I mean, Michigan's two touchdowns early in the game by Donovan Edwards were broken gap mismanagement by Washington, so it wasn't anything like too crazy, and they're both home run plays. And then outside of that, both offenses I felt like were quite inept for most of the game. I didn't really think that it was necessarily like Washington's defense really clamped Michigan's run game for the most part. They really contained them for the remainder of the game. I thought they made the right adjustments and it clearly showed. But I felt like it was more about the offenses not being able to convert on chances than the defenses playing out of their mind. But another thing too, I guess we can touch on is the fact that Michael Penix Jr., although certainly one game does not encapsulate one's entire career or their entire what they can potentially give to an NFL team. It was a bit disappointing to see his performance for the most part. I thought definitely looked a little rushed in the pocket. I thought Michigan's pass rush did a great job getting to him, and obviously Dylan Johnson getting hurt didn't really help him. But I was a little disappointed from Michael Penix's performance. I felt like he kind of missed some important throws that normally he would make.
Yeah, I will say I didn't like the performance that I saw from him, especially heading into the NFL draft now, like the NFL draft season per se, which, I think we can transition into that with all these new vacancies that we have in the head coaching world. If I'm a head coach going into a new team, I want to play with someone that I could build around my own system, meaning I want a QB that I want a new QB, and we're going to see a lot of QBs taken. This might be a record draft, and how many QBs are taken in the first round. We might have someone like JJ McCarthy, who I wouldn't really consider a first round talent, go in the first round just because of how many QBs will go off the board. We could have, you know, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels all go out in the top five. And then we could have, someone like Michael Penix going to top 10 or even top 15 to someone like a team like Seattle, which I think that's where the team that he wants to go to because he's been really referencing a lot of Seahawks and whatnot. But, these QBs do still need to prove themselves. And there's still a lot of QBs out there in the in NFL free agency where you could pick up players. And one thing I will say is that the QB that teams no longer really need a star-studded QB to be able to carry them into the playoffs. Right? Let's look at Brock Purdy, Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield. Right? These are QBs who aren't amazing, but they're good and they get the job done. So I think we're really going to see a lot of, new formations of teams come up similar to what the 49ers have right now, which also is important to note because there's a lot of offensive talent in this NFL draft, especially in the first round with, Marvin Harrison Jr., and just Brock Bowers and so many other players that, I can't even list from the top of my head. But, you know, Raffi, I'll ask you first. How are you feeling with the Falcons head coaching search beginning now?
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty happy. Obviously, as we all can agree, or as someone with the soul can definitely agree. So most people, at least,
Yeah.
except for Notre Dame. No, I'm kidding. Notre Dame fans definitely have a soul. It's a Catholic school, so I'll respect that. Anywho, I think we all feel bad when someone gets fired, and we all feel bad when people are outwardly rooting for someone to get fired. Especially like obviously like there's some terrible people that definitely like Dan Snyder. We all can agree that he should have like been out. But Arthur Smith, by all means, from everything that I've seen online about him in the past, he's a good guy. I wish things worked out. I think we all can agree about that. But he just didn't do a good job. He wasn't a good fit. He was very consistent though, because the last 3 years the Falcons have picked eighth and have been 7-10. So you know what? That man is Jeff Fisher, the new version of Jeff Fisher at least.
Yeah.
So he was consistent, but for all the talent the Falcons had, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and then obviously like your fun load of wide receiver fours that were also in the mix, Van Jefferson, for example, Mac Hollins. He didn't really use his weapons as well as I felt like another coach could have. I felt like he had all these great toys on offense and he didn't really specialize using any of them. Obviously, I'm sure Kyle Pitts is very elated now because hopefully he gets the dang ball next year.
Yeah.
And it's that like Desmond Ritter, I don't think was the guy. Obviously, Taylor Heineke, unfortunately, is also not a starting quarterback throughout your entire season for a contending team. So, like, you take that into
I wouldn't say
consideration.
that.
Sorry, Davian, Mister Taylor Heineke stan,
I
but
wouldn't say
it
that.
was a
Look,
long time
Heineke
coming.
in the right system with the right team, he could be a starting QB. He can be. Just like Sam Howell, I think, is a starting caliber QB.
I mean, it's like the Brock Purdy argument. Would Brock Purdy be as good as he is on another team? Who
Right.
knows? Would Patrick Mahomes be as good of a quarterback if he got drafted by the Bears instead of the Chiefs? Again, we're playing with hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
Based on the situation, Taylor Heineke not the Falcons' future starting quarterback. So
No.
I like that they fired Arthur Smith. They're interviewing a couple different people. Bill Belichick has been one of the guys, and I'll let you preach on him for a moment too. That has been linked to the Falcons. That I'm pretty open to any of these potential options for the Falcons. I don't really think that there's a wrong option for anyone that they've interviewed. I just hope it's more of an offensive mind too, because I want someone who can play around with all these weapons and just change things up a little bit and make that offense even more explosive. And to cap off my long speech about the Falcons, they're really just if they can get a good coach and trade up to get one of the top three quarterbacks, Jane Daniels, Drake May, or Caleb Williams, I think this team is a Super Bowl contender with the right pair. And I don't think that's too far fetched because they have a great offensive line. They have a good run game with Tyler Algier being the backup. The defense has gotten better and can continue to improve through free agency. So I really like this team. There's definitely bias, but I really do think that the quarterback and the coaching was what held back this team from being a true, at least a playoff team this year.
Yeah. I will say, I will comment about the Falcons. I do think that Bill Belichick should become a Falcon. I think that Arthur Smith could throw him the money. And I think that, Bill Belichick, maybe as a GM, is not the most perfect guy, right? But I could see, the Falcons negotiating a deal where, okay, look, you get to draft and be, you get to be like, the person has the last say on who we draft. and who we pick up, but we want to have another person as general manager, which I
Oh,
think will make
absolutely.
sense, right? The thing is, for with Bill Belichick, he's bringing on, it's the Patriot way, and for it to become the Falcon way, it doesn't. I don't think I don't think it will make sense. So we will get to see whether Bill Belichick is able to adapt. And on the note of Bill Belichick, I will go into my next 5 minute rant of crying about Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots. Look, the fact that there was a press conference, Rafi, we talked about this before the show began, really warmed my heart. I almost shed a tear. I'll be honest, because what this man has done for the organization to create a culture that is so strong that you want your next coach, your next head coach, to continue the same culture that the previous coach had is something that I think is very hard to accomplish. The Patriot way, right? It's not even it's one thing to create a dynasty. It's another thing to create an entire culture of a team, which coaches have tried to replicate on the high school level, on the college level, on the NFL level, right? That being the Patriot way, having so many of his assistants try and become head coaches, and some of them struggling, some of them, not so much, like Mike Vrabel, who will become the next New England Patriots head coach, I hope. For them to, Bill Belichick to be able to specialize in this culture and only for him to be able to put it into practice, it's something that you can't really see in other coaches, right? You've seen, Sean McVay's assistants be able to go to other teams and replicate their same cultures, right? Bill Belichick, the Patriot way, the culture is so unique, so strong that created a 20 year dynasty, something that one of the greatest dynasties in sports history, if not the greatest dynasty in sports history. And I truly want Bill Belichick to go out there and win another Super Bowl to prove himself and to prove to the world that it wasn't Brady or Belichick. It was Brady and Belichick that created the dynasty, and each on their own was able to win a Super Bowl on separately. Of course, we will. Bill Belichick has won Super Bowls alongside being on other teams, being on the Browns and the Giants. But that's what I will say for that. In terms of who I want to be on the Patriots' next head coach, it's Mike Vrabel. It's not even a question. He is someone knows the Patriot way, who has shown that he's a successful head coach. I don't think there's anything more I could really ask for from that. It'll be interesting to see where Ben Johnson, the Lions' offensive coordinator, goes, because he seems to be the most touted, coordinator out there. And will we see Jim Harbaugh make a move to go into the NFL? Which I would not be surprised. Having a national title now, trying to, one up your brother, right? What better way to do that than to go into the NFL? And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Seahawks. Why the Seahawks? I'm going to make a quick 1 minute rant right here. Apparently, Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll have strong beef. I kind of read about this the other day. On like this goes back to when Pete Carroll was back at USC, where USC went for two to put to like beat purposely beat I forgot what team Jim Harbaugh was coaching at the time by 50 points, and Harbaugh got really mad about that. So then he went into the and then when he was in the NFL, they're saying one of the reasons why Pete Carroll came to the Seahawks was because he wanted to play and beat Jim Harbaugh, which I think is kind of funny, a
I'm
tidbit.
I love it when people are driven by spite. I, for
Yeah,
one, also love to be driven by spite. So when I see something like that, that's amazing. I will add before you continue on with your tangent, Ben Johnson, with what he did to Sam Laporta, making him such a dynamic weapon, I can only just imagine what he could do with a guy like Kyle Pitts. Like that would
yeah,
just be my goodness. But continue on with what you're saying.
yeah. So I mean, I guess to finalize, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It just there's so much news that's happening all in one day with the NFL, but all the dominoes will fall in line at some point, and it would be interesting to see how this affects the NFL draft. You have Ron Rivera, who's an acclaimed coach. Does he go become a head coach somewhere else, right? And some of these coaches, they want to start with a new QB, others they don't, right? So somebody like Bill Belichick, right? Does he, already, he's old. Does he really want to pick a brand new QB to start and coach up? I don't know. Well, I really don't know. While other coaches might be more open to, draft to getting a rookie QB and building them up and building up a dynasty of some sort. That goes alongside the Commanders, right? The Commanders is such a wild team. I just need to comment on them. With the hires that they've made recently, hiring the former Warriors, GM into their front office, Bob Myers. They're doing moves that are just very, I would say, unconventional. Magic Johnson's apparently going to be part of the hiring process for the next head coach, and I think GM. I don't know if it's for GM as well, but it's a team that's loaded with money, and we'll see if that money translates to winning, which, in most cases doesn't really happen, especially in baseball. But this is NFL, anything can happen. Speaking of anything happening in the NFL, wild card weekend. Rafi, that I've never been so excited for a wild card weekend. And the reason why I say this is because I feel that these teams going head to head, both, I feel like all teams have a chance here, right? In some way, shape, or form. Some more than
You
others,
know,
but it's just like the storyline behind the Browns, behind the Texans, behind the Rams, behind the Lions. It's just something that it's just gonna be awesome to watch. Rafi, what are your thoughts about the wild card weekend? Are you excited, or are you gonna be moping over the Chicago Blackhawks, watching them lose another game?
yeah, absolutely. And first off, the Blackhawks are up 1-0 as we record this podcast on the Winnipeg Jets, who are currently the best team in the NHL. So, not to say we're back, but we are definitely back.
No.
Anywho, one interesting storyline, and first thing, actually, before I even get into that, I'm sure Theodore is mourning right now. Nick Saban, who has announced he's not dead. He's not dead. I just want to preface that
Yeah.
he's not dead. Although all the Alabama people, students, are going to his statue and dropping flowers and etc.
As if he is dead. Yeah.
But he's not dead. Luckily, thankfully,
Yeah.
he has retired from Alabama. At some point, Theodore will be on and definitely talk a little bit more about it. But that's
Yeah.
also
He's kind of
like it's an end of an era for us. It feels like, which is just crazy to think about. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban have been. Bill Belichick especially has been coaching since we weren't even existing when Bill Belichick first took that Patriots job, which is just crazy to think about. But anyways, tying this Bill Belichick back in, one storyline that I'm very intrigued by: the Cowboys. If they lose to the Packers, does Jerry Jones? Well, first off, like we all know, he's selling his soul for the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl before he dies. But do the Cowboys consider firing Mike McCarthy, who's playing against his former team? One of the many great storylines from that. That's my favorite part, the storylines for this wild card weekend. Do the Cowboys fire Mike McCarthy and hire Bill Belichick? I think that makes sense. You have your quarterback in Dak Prescott. You have other pieces. I don't think we need to really talk too much about that being a possibility, but just something I want to throw out. And then you also mentioned, and I said the storylines: Texans, Browns. Deshaun Watson gets traded. He's not even going to play in that game. And then you have the Joe Flacco situation where he just came off the couch. Like, yes, he played last year for the Jets, but literally just came off the couch midseason, was like, okay, let me just lead this team to the playoffs. And he's been really good.
Yeah.
Bill Steelers is not really too many. You have the Mason Rudolph storyline. The Bills have won, I think, 5 or 6 in a row. That storyline, although they've been inconsistent. Chiefs, Dolphins, Tyreek Hill returns to Kansas City. Lions, Rams. The Lions finally make the playoffs. Who did they go up against? Matthew Stafford, and they have Jared Goff, of course. Cowboys, Packers, I already mentioned it with Mike McCarthy. Tampa Bay Eagles, probably like the one game that doesn't really have like a notable storyline with it, but yeah, I love all these. I love all these matchups. They're all great storylines, and let's get into some picks. We can start off with the AFC, and we can start off with the 4-5 matchup: Texans Browns. Now, I'm gonna go with the Texans here. I think the
What?
Browns have a great defense, and it's hard to pick against Joe Flacco. But I'm kind of riding the CJ Stroud train. Tank Dell's been a
No.
guy. Nico Collins has been great. I'm gonna go
No.
with the Texans here.
No. It's a rookie in the playoffs. Look, I have been
You know
dead.
who else was a rookie in the playoffs and went on a deep playoff run? Joe Flacco.
Yes, but that was moons ago, and that was with a crazy strong Ravens defense. The Texans don't have a Ravens like defense. They're not built like that. Look, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've been proven wrong. I've been proven right with this theory. You never, ever trust a rookie QB in the playoffs, okay? I never will. I will bet against them till the day I die. Look, Joe Flacco has so much riding on this for him, right? His children used to ask him, "Hey, Dad, why do you suck?" And he would have to pull up YouTube highlights and show, "Look, this was me back in my Raven days," right? Now, his children get to witness him play live. They will most likely be at this game. And you're telling me that Joe Flacco is going to go down without a fight? Absolutely not. I do not see that happening. Joe Flacco is going to carry this Browns team at least past the wild card round. Okay. And I was about to say something very, very, a very gutsy call that I don't want to
We
really
were about to
stand
have
by.
to clip something right there.
We were about to have
And
a
so,
freezing cold take right now,
so
but I
you have
will
the
say,
Browns. I have the Texans,
yeah,
and
let's move
then
on.
continuing on, Bills Steelers. That Bills win is massive because now the Steelers have to go to Buffalo, where it will likely be snowing and cold.
Yeah.
And the Steelers are down T.J. Watt. In all likelihood, I think we both can agree that the Bills are going to win this game, even though they've looked
No.
very.
Nope.
Are you gonna? No. The
Yeah.
Bills have looked extreme. I will say the Bills have looked extremely dysfunctional. They've
Yes.
won a bunch in a row, but I haven't been, as one of the Bills' largest supporters that isn't a fan. They haven't played consistently. Like this is like a team that's just like
Mason
gonna
Rudolph has
torch
been on
everyone.
fire these past few weeks. He's carrying so much momentum into this game. Yes, I know last week was a bit of a fluke. They barely beat the Ravens, who didn't start any of their players. But I will say this Steelers team, I think, is extremely impressive. Mason Rudolph has so much on the line in this game. I think, we talk about, teams that may or may not be looking for a QB in the NFL draft. Mason Rudolph, if he wins this game and if he carries them through at least a deep playoff run, I don't see how the Steelers can't continue to start Mason Rudolph. So I'm going to take Mason Rudolph and the Steelers beating the Bills. The Bills have been dysfunctional. I'm also a Patriots fan. No bias at all, though.
Chiefs Dolphins. I have the Chiefs
Chiefs. I'm sorry.
begrudgingly.
Look, did you see the weather? It's going to be 0 degrees. And at one point they said negative
Yeah.
9. I'm sorry. You're coming from Miami. It's going to be butt cold out there.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I have the Chiefs, and I feel like everyone's made this joke, but if there's any team that wishes that they could take a player from the other team after beating them, I think the Chiefs would really like to get Tyreek Hill if they
Yeah.
beat the Dolphins. So, yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. Again, as you said, weather. Moving on, the Stafford Jared Goff trade bowl between the Lions and the Rams.
Yeah.
I'm picking the Rams. I feel really bad. I want the Lions to go on a deep playoff run. I just have a feeling about the Rams. I think they're underrated. Their defense has played really well. The offense, Puka Nakua, has been an absolute dog. And then you also have Cooper Kupp as well. The Lions secondary concerns me. Dan Campbell can be a little too ballsy, which is also concerning. I feel like it's a playoff game, so he might be overly aggressive potentially, which could work out, could also not. Sam Laporta also being injured also is a big concern for me too. So unfortunately, I'm going to go with the Rams. The good thing is I don't decide who wins these games, and if the Lions are to win and go on a deep playoff run, I would be perfectly happy with eating this 100%. But I'm going to go with the Rams.
I'm going to go with the Rams as well. Don't have anything else to really add on, like you said. This is what you said. Let's move on to the next. Well, we're kind of jumping a bit out of order, but whatever. Let's go Packers Cowboys. This is a storied, rivalry. I can't speak.
Rivalry.
Competition between these two teams. Who do you have winning, Rafi?
Okay, first off, again, as many people have said, because I've been watching many people on YouTube, Packers are playing with house money here. They're going to this game, youngest team to make the playoffs in a while, or since it's been tracked to make the playoffs. They're playing with house money here. They're just going to this game like, dude, could you imagine how funny it would be to watch the Cowboys Nation burn to the ground after losing to the Packers again? Like, the Packers can screw around, and they very well could win this game. My main concern, though, is with the defense. Joe Barry is the Matt Canada of defenses right now. He is not liked in Green Bay. I mean, you allow 30 points to the Panthers. I mean, yes, the Falcons lost to the Panthers, but you cannot be allowing 30 points to the Panthers. That's a big red flag. No for me. I'm going to go with the Cowboys here, but I just want to say Jordan Love has been amazing this year. Like, he's
Yeah.
really come
Yes.
into his own, just like how I was talking about Jay Milroe throughout the entire season for Alabama. I feel like you really saw Jordan Love progress this year. I don't think that he's, oh my gosh, he's a top 10 quarterback already. But I think if he can take this momentum towards the end of this past year, second half of this year, and push it forward and take some more steps next year, he can definitely get into that top 10 conversation 100%. And to much of the chagrin of every Bears and NFC North fan, the Bears, oh my goodness, you miss on consistently missing on quarterbacks. You might be taking a new quarterback at number one in Caleb Williams potentially. And then you just see the Packers like, okay, Brett Favre, okay, well, oh, Aaron Rodgers, lovely. And then right after that, oh,
Jordan
I
Love.
guess we'll
Yeah.
just take Jordan Love then. So it's rough out here for Bears fans. I can confirm in Chicago that if the Packers go on a deep run and just the fact that they have Jordan Love who's been playing well, the salt levels are quite high in Chicago and
Yeah.
throughout Lake Michigan in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Cowboys. I just got nothing else to add. That team is just built different. This Cowboys team
Defense is so good
has
still.
been very
So good.
impressive. If the Cowboys are ever to go on a deep run, it'll be now. So I'm gonna pick the Cowboys. But if the Packers win, I'll be very happy.
It'll be really funny.
It'll be really funny as well.
Lastly, we have Tampa Bay and Philly. Eagles started off 10-1. I feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity. We definitely could have made more fun of the Eagles throughout the entire
We
year
should
during
have.
their
Should
downfall.
have.
They've lost 5 of their last 6. Nick Sirianni, apparently Eagles fans want him to be fired. That's hilarious. They also brought Matt Patricia to be the offensive coordinator, which is also equally as hilarious.
Is
I
that
have Tampa Bay
is that
winning
defense?
here.
I think it's defense.
Defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Correct. Defensive coordinator. Thank you for the correction. I have the Buccaneers here. Baker Mayfield has been on another level this year. I feel like he's
Yes.
finally found a fit with Tampa. I like the defense still. It didn't really change too much aside from age. You aged another year. Happy birthday to all the defensive players on the Buccaneers for one more year, one more rotation around the earth. Shout out to them. And you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You have a solid offense too. Good offensive line. I have Tampa being the Eagles, and Philly might burn to the ground.
Yes. I will say this. I'm gonna go on a bit of a
You know
rant.
what? They're already burning to the ground for Cutter Gauthier,
Yeah,
and
they
then this
are.
Eagles
That's gonna
loss.
be a double the
It
burning.
might
Yeah.
be the stake in the coffin.
Yeah.
There's your
Well.
little hockey segment for the podcast today.
Yeah, we will have a hockey segment for all our hockey fans out there, and we will have an NBA segment at some point. Ooh, I'm dying out here.
Maybe even
Feels
next
like the
week.
Eagles are
Maybe even
dying
next week.
slowly. Um, what I will say, this Buccaneers team, Baker Mayfield, has played as if every game is his last game to prove himself to the team that he is their guy, that he is their franchise QB. This game is just as important as the past 18 games. And thus, I will say this, I truly think that the Buccaneers are going to win this game, and they're going to win it in impressive and fashionable fashion. And with that, I rest my case. Baker Mayfield to the moon. Thank you very much.
Could you please repeat that? You cut out. Just say start off with your Baker Mayfield again.
Just like big, just the beginning, like Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, just the beginning, because right after you started talking about Baker Mayfield, your screen went out.
Okay.
I didn't see your video, so
Got it.
you froze. I just want to make sure that we got
Okay.
that.
Baker Mayfield has so much on the line in this game. He needs to prove to the Buccaneers that he is the guy. And he has proven that over these past 18 games, right? 18 weeks. But he needs, this game is as equally as important as every other game. So not only do I think that the Buccaneers are going to win, I think they're going to win in such a fashion that we will wake up on Tuesday morning, January 16th, and Philadelphia will be burned to the ground, and Nick Sirianni will not be the head coach for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield quite literally is playing for a QB starting job, and you know what? He's done a great job this year, and that would certainly help. Let's get into our AFC and NFC championship game champion, as Pat McAfee would say.
Oh, we're going all the
Championship matchups and picks. AFC and NFC. Who are your matchups, and who do you have
way.
going to the Super Bowl?
I didn't really think that we were going all the way with this prediction, but Rafi, you put me in such a spot, man. Okay. I don't know how the little bracket thing works, but I got the Browns against the who do we pick here? Yeah, I got the
So you'd have
Browns.
the Browns and the Raven. You
Browns
had
and
the
the Ravens.
Steelers
Yeah.
being the Bills. So you had the Steelers, Ravens, and then you had the Browns and the Chiefs. So who do you have winning both those games?
Um. Wait, say that again.
I have I
Wait,
have the.
say
I'll let you set up real quick. I have the Ravens and Chiefs in the AFC. I think the Bills are too dysfunctional, and I trust the Chiefs wide receivers at least. I trust the Chiefs wide receivers to catch the ball more than I do for the Bills to play a full 60-minute game. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs versus the Ravens. I have the Ravens winning. I think the Ravens are just above everyone else in
yeah.
the AFC this year. Now, obviously, that's they're primed to be upset them, but the big thing has been health. They've been healthy this year. We saw what they did to the Niners. We've seen what they've been doing. We always see them play a top team. The Dolphins as well. We're like, okay, they might rival the Ravens. Nope. Ravens just wipe the floor with them. I have the Ravens coming out of the AFC being the Chiefs. NFC, I have the Niners and Cowboys. And you know what? If there ever was a year for the Dallas Cowboys to go on a deep playoff run, as you alluded to earlier, Davian, I'm hopping on the Dallas Cowboys wagon. I'm taking the Cowboys to beat the 49ers, get over the hump. They got embarrassed last year when they played the Niners. They say, not so fast, my friend. And they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl
Someone
over
clip
the
that.
Niners.
Someone clip that because that's such a poor take right there. I'm sorry. I do have the 49ers and the Cowboys in. Actually, wait. What am I saying? Now, I get the 49ers the uh against the Ram. Wait, who did I pick? Against the Lions. No, against the Rams in the AFC championship in the NFC championship. Wow, I'm doing so well today. And I have the 49ers going to the Super Bowl. On the AFC side, I'm going to hop on it. I'm going to say what I wasn't going to say before. The Cleveland Browns are going to be the Kareem Hunt Championship, AFC Championship winners, and thus will be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl and going up against the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Davian, I think Theodore being not present has meant that we're both being a little too delusional to fill in for Theodore's absence. But you know what? We'll see what happens. Who
I
knows?
say we
There's a
go
lot of
for it.
chaos that happens
I will be
in the
right. You
NFL.
will be wrong, and I will laugh on you. I'll laugh at you on TikTok.
All
Exactly.
right, and lastly, let's give our final prediction for our Super Bowls. Ravens Cowboys again. It doesn't matter really who you put. I mean, the Ravens. I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl
Yeah.
this year, and to everyone again, just you had Lamar Jackson potentially, and you decided not to sign him or not offer sheet him, and Lamar Jackson this year says bet, and I think the Ravens are just by far the best team in the NFL this year. They've proven
Um.
it. And when you beat the Niners the way they did, when you beat the Dolphins the way they did, the only thing that's coming in their way is an AFC North team. And I don't have them playing an AFC North team throughout the playoffs. So I have the Ravens beating the Cowboys and winning another Lombardi.
Yeah, I have the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, even if they go against the Ravens, which I think is probably going to be more likely than the Browns. I think this 49ers team is going to learn from their mistakes. And I think injuries are going to play a factor. I think that this Ravens team, as they play more and more, they will get more and more injured. That's just how it works, sadly, in the NFL, especially with this Ravens team, which is very injury prone. With that being said, I have the 49ers being the Ravens in the Super Bowl with a Nick Bosa sack on 4th and 3, with the Ravens driving the ball on the 20-yard line, needing a touchdown to win the game.
I just hope that if that matchup happens, the lights don't go out and there's a delay. So
Exactly.
that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports podcast. We hope you enjoyed. We talked a lot about coaches getting fired. We mentioned a little bit of hockey, and we gave our Super Bowl and playoff predictions. So we hope you enjoyed that. Let us know who you guys think is going to go all the way and win the Lombardi Trophy this year. For Davian, I'm Raffi. We hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend, as I forgot to shout that out earlier.
Whoa!
And we'll see what happens. We'll be keeping tabs on everything over the next few weeks. So stick around. Follow us on TikTok, Benchwarmer Sports as always. And Have a great weekend. See you guys.
Peace.